We're back on the pulse and we are on for the next few hours and minutes. Now let's start with May Day, because workers around the world, we're celebrating this very important day. President Akufo-Addo has reiterated his government commitment to improving the working conditions of workers, or the labor front, as the workers mark the day. He also assured that the intermittent power cuts will become a thing of the past. Listen to him as he addressed the labor front this morning at the Blast House Square.
Leadership. Government has resourced and reformed various governance and security institutions to be efficient and independent and ready for the discharge of their duties. In the wake of the global current economic and social challenges, it has become even more imperative to pay closer attention to happenings in the country and within the region. Despite these challenges, we must remain steadfast to overcome emerging threats. Securing peace is not only necessary for the electioneering campaign, but also vital for the stability of the labor front. A peaceful and stable labor front will create a conducive environment for government to implement its policies and programs, and for the economy to grow. Government hereby reiterates its resolve to address the concerns of labor in the interest of national development. The upward adjustment of the base pay by 23% in the first half of the year and by 25% in the second half of the year is a demonstration of government's commitment to improving and protecting public sector incomes. This is being done to signal the importance government places on the welfare of workers. Chairperson, Secretary General, though today marks my final May Day address to organize labor as President of the Republic, having served by January the 7th, 2025, the constitutionally permitted allotment of 2 terms of 4 years each, I want to assure you that this, however, will not be my last encounter with organized labor. In the coming months, there will be a series of engagements with organized labor aimed at promoting peace, stability, and social cohesion. Personally, I look forward to interacting with you once again at the 2nd edition of the National Labor Conference, scheduled for some time later this year. Such occasions offer unique opportunities for representatives of government, employers, and organized labor to have dispassionate discussions on accelerating economic growth for national development. This is critical, and I'm happy that the conference is high on the agenda of tripartite constituents. Ensuring peaceful elections for national development also requires government to strengthen the policy, legislative, and institutional framework of labor administration. Since becoming president in January 2017, the support, cooperation, and collaboration I have received and enjoyed from organized labor has been nothing short of extraordinary. As we approach the upcoming elections in 2024, it is imperative that we recognize the crucial importance of maintaining peace and stability throughout the electoral process. Elections are the cornerstone of democracy, providing a platform for the expression of the popular will and for the peaceful transfer of power when required. However, they also have the potential to divide rather than unite if not conducted in a peaceful and transparent manner. Indeed, the theme for this year's May Day celebration, Election 2024, the role of workers and social partners in securing peaceful elections for national development, underscores the pivotal role that each and every one of us has to play in ensuring that our electoral process is free, fair, transparent, and devoid of violence. Indeed, the destiny of the nation hinges upon the collective actions of workers and social partners to safeguard our democratic principles and uphold the rule of law. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghana's track record as a bastion of democracy and peace is an enviable one that needs protection. Our democratic processes have stood the test of time, especially under the Fourth Republic. We have undertaken so far 8 successive elections whose results have given rise to 3 peaceful transfers of power from one party to another since 1992. I am confident that on 7th December 2024, like in previous elections, Ghana will once again emerge stronger, more united, and more capable of advancing her development goals. Workers, as the backbone of our country, have special roles to play in shaping the outcome of elections. Your voices matter, and your participation in the electoral process is essential to ensuring that the concerns and aspirations of working people are adequately represented in our governance structure. I urge you to exercise your civic duty responsibly, engage in informed discourse, and cast your vote for candidates who espouse policies that promote inclusivity, equality, and social justice. As social partners, an important part of your role is to defend and uphold the ideals of the Constitution. Workers should continue to act with utmost integrity, professionalism, and discipline in the run-up to the elections. The political season should not unduly polarize us. Elections are about making choices from available personalities and policies. The fact that we have different preferences should not make us enemies. We are brothers and sisters who will continue living together in the only country that God has given us even after the elections. We must remember that despite the high stakes in previous elections, we exhibited a great deal of political maturity in navigating the challenges we faced. Various governance and security institutions proved their worth and demonstrated independence and resilience in demanding times. Our capacity for securing peaceful elections ahead of the 2024 electioneering season was tested in 2023 when we conducted 2 by-elections in the Kumau and Asen North constituencies, and again yesterday when we conducted another peaceful by-election in Edriso. These by-elections have signaled our preparedness for peaceful elections in 2024. Government is confident that the peace that characterized these by-elections would also manifest in the December polls. Government, through the National Media Commission and in collaboration with various other bodies, is scaling up mechanisms to combat hate speech and the dissemination of fake news, misinformation and disinformation campaigns ahead of the elections. These events have the tendency of inciting violence to mar the peace we are enjoying. Government will not leave any stone unturned as we intensify campaigns on the See Something, Say Something. This initiative, an all-inclusive whole of society campaign, encourages citizens to report suspicious activities to the security agencies. Fortunately for us, social partners and workers are well placed to report any suspicious activities to safeguard the peace and security of the country.
So you all see the President Akufo-Addo's last May Day address to labor unions, because he will be stepping down in January 2025. So what has been the reaction to this speech? The Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Dr. Anthony Yalba, has once again bemoaned the low wages paid workers, particularly workers in the private sector. This, he said, translates into small pension benefits when workers go on retirement.
Comrades, we are celebrating this May Day at the time Ghanaian workers and their families are grappling with high cost of living and inflation of over 25%. Exchange rate of the cedi is now almost 14 cedis, if not more, to $1, compared to about 4 in 2016. That means workers who earned monthly salary of 1,000 Ghana cedis in 2016 were taking home the equivalent of $250. Today, 1,000 Ghana cedis is only $71 US. The depreciation of the cedi at this monumental scale, that is about 250% depreciation, represents a huge decline in living standards of Ghanaians generally and workers in particular. This is so because of our over-reliance on imported goods such as medicines, refined petroleum products, and food, whose prices are directly affected by the exchange rate of the Ghana cedi in terms of the major international currencies such as the US dollar and the pound sterling. What it means is that if we want our cities to be stable, we should reduce imports and consume what we produce in Ghana. Furthermore, as we all know very well, Ghanaian workers rely on loans to meet very basic necessities such as rent advance and our children's education. And in some cases, we even have to rely on loans for food. Today, we are paying interest rates of 30% to access loans from the banks. In the informal economy, interest rates can even be as high as 50% or even sometimes higher. Our children graduate from the universities and colleges after we have spent so much on them, but they cannot find jobs. And the trouble is that there seems to be no end of this socioeconomic hardship in sight. We were told that an IMF bailout will help. But we know that IMF bailout cannot be a solution to Ghana's economic hardship. The relatively high wage increases we negotiated for workers in the last 2 years have lost their real values. So, comrades, we have a lot of work to do to protect the working people of Ghana. Brother Chairman, let me shift our attention to the theme of this year's May Day celebration, and that is Election 2024, the role of workers and social partners in securing peaceful elections for national development. As in the previous election years,
right, so we also got reaction from Clocksack. They had their own May Day celebration, and they've made some allegations to the extent that they're accusing government of replacing some of their members with political appointees. And Isaac Akufo-Addo is not happy with it, and he will be making the point forcefully very soon. But it is May Day, and so obviously everybody is basking in the glory. And former President John Mahama has commended Ghanaian workers for their dedication and commitment to national development. In his May Day message to workers, the NDC flag bearer said their dedication to maintaining fair and peaceful election is not only a duty but a shared responsibility essential for our nation's stability and prosperity. He, however, expressed regret that today's Workers' Day celebration is tempered by the country's severe challenges because of poor governance, incompetence, economic mismanagement, institutionalized corruption under the current administration. He said the forthcoming election on December 7, according to the former president, offers citizens a pivotal opportunity to alter the current trajectory and set a new course. The former president is also confident that a central element of his vision for Ghana's recovery is the implementation of a 24-hour economy, which, according to him, is designed to generate sustainable, decent job opportunities and promote growth and prosperity for everyone. He believes that adopting a 24-hour economy model will diversify the Ghanaian economy and empower the workforce. And of course, that's the statement coming from the former president. Now, let's understand him more. And Joyce Bauer speaks for the former president, and she joins me via Zoom. So, Madam Bauer, it's safe to say Happy Workers' Day to you as well.
Happy Workers' Day to all good people of Ghana. And let me also say a very special Happy Workers' Day to the Maritime and Dock Workers Union. They have always been my very small demographic, and today I wish them the very, very best. Well, I'm sure that we've all listened very carefully to His Excellency, the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Right.
We've listened also to the TUC Chairman and Secretary General's speech this morning. Indeed, I'm sure that all of us know that one of the biggest challenges we're currently grappling with is first unemployment. It's secondly a lack of job security and security of tenure. I believe that listening to the TUC boss, it is very, very apparent that all is not well on the workforce and the scene of workers. He spoke about the arrears in terms of our payments of pensions, for example, stating that it was actually from 2021, 2020, thereabouts, and that they're still waiting. He bemoaned the depreciation of the currency as against the dollar. He indicated very clearly that 1,000 cedis today is actually just valued at $70 US, and expressed enormous regret that government has woefully failed to advertise itself in the way that they actually promoted them even before they came into office. I'm sure that Mr. Mahama has actually bemoaned the spate of corruption, and we've just heard about SML and indeed how the report has been handled. We are still waiting for the KPMG report to be made public. Look, the challenge that most of us grapple with as a people is the fact that our leaders are not necessarily honest or sincere. I'm sure that listening to the TUC boss, it is no news, because we do know that currently there are some pension bondholders who are struggling to get their money. We saw a report that was actually published about the woeful inability of SNIT to continue to shore up pensions in the coming years. We are waiting to hear government debunk some of these notions that create enormous anxiety for the Ghanaian worker. Today, we are speaking to a theme about the role of workers and as social partners in securing peaceful elections for national development. Let me indicate that for once, the president actually spoke largely to our democratic credentials.
Right.
And for once, I didn't hear him speak about the fact that he is hoping to install his own successor as our leader in the next election. Maybe he is speaking the exigency of the day and judging by the nuances of some of his comments of late. I'm happy and delighted that for once, he has actually shown enormous consideration and realizes also that his own utterances just may be the reasons why our nascent democracy may suffer from some challenges.
We'll come to the election
year, and when you listen to Mr. Mahama, it's almost as if the two of them had actually compared their notes before issuing their respective statements this morning.
We'll do that. We'll come to the elections. We'll come to the elections, and then the commitments and the comments made, and whether they satisfy you as we look to December 2024. Perhaps you can look at what happened in Josu yesterday and whether or not it served as perfect dress rehearsal for December 2024. But again, the challenges with the Ghanaian economy, I'm sure is evident to everybody. In fact, the triggers and what really are the signs that things are not well, the inflation, the depreciation of the cedi, and how that is impacting on the Ghanaian and impacting on livelihoods. The NDC has proposed a 24-hour economy, and the thinking is that it will help create the environment for more businesses to grow and people to get jobs. You are, in the event that the NDC win the 2025 election, we inheriting a challenge that you have to fix. And I'm wondering the strategies beyond the 24-hour economy, what you have under your sleeves, to give hope and confidence to the Ghanaian worker that beyond 2025, there could be better days ahead?
Well, first and foremost, let me first state categorically that Mr. Mahama has stated, without any fear of equivocation, that the only way that we can actually reform generally on the lack of employment, which is something that all of us are grappling. Look, one of the biggest threats to our democracy is lack of employment and access. What is the reason? And we'll come back to the same conversation. I know you don't want us to go, so hard on the politics today, but on any other day, today is actually one of the biggest days that all workers are paying great attention.
Right.
You heard about high food inflation. You heard about the depreciation of the currency. You've heard about unbridled greed and corruption. Corruption is actually one of the reasons why a lot of people look for jobs and cannot find jobs. And the example I have immediately of one of the stories that actually feeds into the public perception of this grand agenda of corruption in our country presently is to do with the recent SML report, for example. Why are we being given it in little drops and pieces? Why are we not making the KPMG report public so that readers can vet for themselves why government arrived at the conclusions that they have arrived with? Secondly, right. Mr. Mahama has also spoken about fighting corruption, about strengthening anti-corruption institutions and agencies, about promoting freedoms amongst the press so that you can continue to exhibit and promote and encourage people to report on acts of graft and help agencies that are actually tasked to do so to support them. Then also, what is it that we want to do? We're looking at manufacturing, for example. We're looking at revamping that industry, that important sector. I am a maritime person. I say it every day. When the vessels call at our ports, my brother, what is it they take back? If we improve upon our manufacturing sector, there will be something to return. Apart from cocoa, what else do we actually export in large quantities?
So they come in and the container goes empty.
Absolutely. And this is actually why one of the key reasons why imports are so expensive is because a shipper will actually charge you for the journey from port to port and for his return as well. Remember that in shipping, time is of the essence and delays cost money. And returning empty means then that you've lost enormous resources. But of course, you have insured your vessel for the journey to and fro.
Right.
So if we are able to mitigate this aspect alone and produce enough or manufacture enough or work hard enough to improve upon what it is we are exporting, just imagine what the economy will look like. So Mr. Mahama has proposed a 24-hour economy. He has spoken at length about how he expects that those will improve upon exports, for example. It will reduce and cut drastically on what we are importing. That is the first step. Secondly, if we can keep businesses open 24 hours, if we can give them time of use, electricity, for example, which is cheaper rates when everybody else is not using them. But look, presently, we are back to doom so. We all heard Mr. Akufo-Addo in the State of the Nation address. What did he tell us? He told us that he was leaving doom so for Mr. Mahama. I mean, look, I think that sometimes we ought to tell our leaders that when they talk to us, they should speak to us with respect. Anybody's house to switch the lights on.
In the last few days, even today, in the last few days, I've heard from the Vice President, I've heard him say that the doomsday will be a thing of the past very soon. The President reiterated that point today. No timelines provided. And I'm wondering the level of confidence that gives you that our light will be on and then stay on.
But that's the point I'm making. They're in denial. They don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to show leadership. What is the reason why we are struggling with our power, for example? I met the IPPs. I listened to them. Government owes them in excess of $1 billion. We heard about the Sunon Asogli issue recently. When they bared their teeth, they were paid partly and then the work started. The Ameri plant has been moved to the Ashanti region at huge cost to the taxpayer, over $3 million to move it. Why are we still sleeping in darkness if government can afford $3 million plus to relocate the Ameri plant to the Ashanti region? You know, look, government knows that corruption is one of the reasons why we are sleeping in darkness. That if they make resources available to the independent power producers, the lights will stay on. The TUC of Ghana has told us, the AGI has told us that one of the biggest stumbling blocks to fully manufacturing every product that we need in this country is lack of what? Access to cheaper electricity. Indeed, it is not even available, let alone for you to consider it as what? As cheaper. These are some of the things that militate against our full industrialization. And we know that when you think about the cost of small businesses having to keep generators on, you know, look, the doomsday today is no different from what we had yesterday. The challenge with yesterday was that we did not have any alternative sources of electricity. Now we do, thanks to Mr. Mahama, thanks to his forward thinking, and thanks to his vision. All we are asking government to do today is that start paying the independent power producers so that we can keep the lights on. Were you not here when they started the propaganda about the fact that we had excess of power? So if we have excess of power, why are we sleeping in darkness? If we have excess of power, why are all small businesses depending on generators? If we have excess of power, look at the cost of fuel to a small business industry in this country. Indeed, we cannot expect our economy to improve if we cannot even keep power supply readily available for those who need it.
Right.
You know, I have always maintained that there is something that all of us ought to do. We must hold our leaders accountable.
Right.
Demand answers from them. Expect them to do better. In any case, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is Vice President of Ghana. Why is he telling us that today the lights are off and that the power outages are not his business? But of course, when he comes into office, there will be a thing of the past. How is that possible? So between him and President Akufo-Addo, who really should we be trusting today? Leaders ought to learn to take responsibility fully for all the omissions that take place. Leaders must also remember that if they fail to fight graft and corruption, that mostly will have the challenges that we are having. Have you heard about the money paid to SML, for example? For what? For fuel assurance, for quality assurance. Where is that one coming from? If that $1 billion or cedis were made available to the independent power producers, the lights will stay on. Ghanaian businesses will enjoy ready power supply. They'll be able to do more. Indeed, today even, the cocoa sector is crying out for support. You see, at the end of the day, only the persons who promote corruption and the corrupt ones are literally enjoying life and benefiting. At high inflation, at serious depreciation of the city, at high cost of fuel. Look, the cost of fuel today is mind-boggling. And day in, day out, fuel prices are going up. And when they go up, it affects
everybody.
It affects transportation, it affects everybody.
Right.
And yet, government tells you and I that they are going to repaint school blocks. They're going to change school uniforms. How is that a priority?
Let's focus. Let's look at the election, because the TUC who made a celebration today apart from, lamenting about the state of the Ghanaian worker and what government can do to improve it, they spent quite a lot of time talking about the 2024 election, the fact that we are in an election year, and demanded that government resource the Electoral Commission, the police, and the other stakeholders to ensure credible, transparent, free, and fair election. President Akufo-Addo gave his assurance. I mean, coming from the back of Ejiso and recent development within the political space, from the NDC's point of view, in terms of confidence and impulse to ensure that we have one of the best in 2024, what would be your approach going forward to December?
Well, I think that the NDC is a peace-loving political party. As the largest political party and the best party waiting actually to take over power or the reins of power, I believe that we need a peaceful election. It's a commitment that Mr. Mahama has already given and made. Indeed, he himself handed over power very peacefully. There was a very peaceful transition. As far as I'm concerned, there have been no issues ever since he transferred power very peacefully to Nana Akufo-Addo. Indeed, what I have said is that we saw Ayawaso West Wagon. I am surprised that the president did not make reference to the violence that occurred. The white paper was issued. We have not heard that any of those persons who perpetrated that level of violence have been prosecuted. Indeed, some of them were even promoted and received a pat on the back. We also saw what happened in Asin North, and to my utter disappointment, there were young people demanding for money so that they can cast their ballots. And indeed, that dovetails directly into what we saw in Ejisu yesterday. We heard President Akufo-Addo literally chastising the independent candidate and telling him that for as long as he was bent on going independent, that he was what? An NDC man. This is a democracy. We live in a democracy. In any case, we have a man who went independent, largely because of some of these reasons, and is today actually voting on the side of the government in power, and currently is Deputy Speaker of Parliament. But he contested as an independent candidate at the time because he was disgruntled and displeased with events within the New Patriotic Party. I didn't hear the president condemn that action, and I didn't hear him so far speak to that envelope that was left there by Dr. Nyako, trying to bribe, from what we all saw in that video, persons who were there as officials of the electoral process. We've heard about conversations in and around the EC regarding the loss of equipment that nobody was told about, the auctioning off of electoral equipment paid for by taxpayers' money, and no explanations were given. Indeed, when Mr. Mahama criticized the Electoral Commission's actions in that regard, it was the EC that actually decided to respond to him. Yesterday's video and all the conversations we heard from independent candidates, from persons who were there in Ejisu, should tell us one thing, that the president himself is actually entirely responsible for some of these activities currently.
Are you surprised that the police is quiet on this matter as of now? Are you surprised that the police is quiet on this matter as of now?
Let me state without any fear of equivocation that I would have expected to hear President Akufo-Addo condemn this action this morning. He had a huge platform. He had every reason to condemn the activities that bring the Electoral Commission into disrepute. Look, the NDC has returned to IPAC. The conversations are for us to strengthen our nascent democracy, to be sure that the Electoral Commission is there to serve the good people of Ghana. That is all we expect, nothing less, nothing more. The EC is not and should not consider itself as an appendage of the New Patriotic Party. Indeed, presently, we have some partisans who have found their way onto the commission. We have spoken at length. We have condemned that action by the president himself, and everybody in Ghana knows that that is an activity that is simply not in any way encouraging of our democracy. Indeed, I would have expected the president to condemn this activity in no uncertain terms this morning, especially because the theme for today says Elections 2024, the role of workers and social partners in securing peaceful elections for national development. We all consider that this year's election ought, like all the others, emulate the past examples, especially since the inception of the Fourth Republic. Right. My brother, monetization of our electoral process ought to be condemned, and our president must ensure that he is going to oversee and superintend over peaceful, fair, and free elections, and that he will in the event that he loses the election, because he has told us that he would want to see his own successor elected into office. Ghanaians are the ones who will decide. I have no doubt in my mind that looking at all the things going on today,
right,
Ghanaians know that John Mahama and the NDC will be the best to lead this country and to stabilize and steer our affairs in a manner that all of us desire. But be that as it may,
right,
we must continue to criticize the Electoral Commission where we can, criticize His Excellency the President where it's possible. And look, none of the things that they are currently doing were tolerated in 2016. In 2020, you do know that 8 people lost their lives. I'm sure you remember.
Yeah,
I am yet to hear the president condemn any of this violence or any of these activities that have taken place under his watch. My brother, Ghana is the only country that all of us have. Since Mr. Mahama left office, with all the machinations and all the accusations, he has lived here his entire life. He will continue to live here before and after the elections.
Right.
So the fact that we all expect peaceful elections is a matter that is very dear to
the heart of everybody. Let me allow you to enjoy the rest of your. Let me allow you to enjoy the rest of your May Day holiday, so that I don't take so much of your time. Thank you very much, Joyce Bar. Always a pleasure speaking to you. Joyce Bar speaks for the former President John Dramani Mahama, and we are still celebrating Workers' Day around the world, and still on the labor front. The Civil and Local Government Staff Association (CLOGSAG) is unhappy with what they describe as an attempt by government to replace some of their members with political appointees. Here's Executive Secretary Isaac Akufo-Addo.
In this direction, it is important to refer to the Supreme Court ruling, writ number 11/16/2016, dated 14th June 2017, that with every guaranteed human right under the Constitution comes an overriding responsibility, which is toward the public interest or greater good. It is for this reason that the framers of the 1992 Constitution placed limitations on the exercise of some human rights by certain classes of persons, including members of the civil service and the local government service. These services have been long hallowed institutions whose utility lie entirely in their presumed anonymity, neutrality, and permanence. From one political administration to the next, the civil service and the local government service are expected to remain in place, functioning in a professional manner to assure continuity and process integrity in the administration of day-to-day governance. Since 2017, CLOGSAG has continued to draw attention to the inimical impact of replacing active staff of the civil and local government services with political appointees, and putting such appointees in positions which are the exclusive reserve of the staff of the civil and local government services. The observation is that the unprofessional performance of these political appointees, coupled with the blatant disregard for laid down procedures, have contributed immensely to the poor state of the economy. Considering the large number of political appointees at the Ministry of Finance, for example, who have taken over the functions of active civil servants, it is no wonder that their bad decisions have culminated in the economic chaos of the country. There are also instances of party activists interfering in the work of the staff of the civil and local government service. An extreme case is the harassment of a district coordinating director who was literally dragged out of his office by party activists. There are also instances of lockouts and assaults of staff of the district assemblies across the country by party functionaries. These irresponsible acts are as a result of the disregard for the principles of neutrality, anonymity, and permanence as the hallmark of the two civil services. Unfortunately, the adherence to the principle of neutrality in the civil service and local government service has been viewed as a one-sided phenomenon instead of being two-sided. While the worker should be neutral and should not show any form of discrimination, partisanship, or bias in his work, the employer government is equally expected not to appoint political elements into the system. Where a person is politically colored, the perception of neutrality is weakened and public trust wanes. Eventually, democracy suffers. The Supreme Court ruling on 14 June 2017 also stated that best practices and Ghana's socio-political evolution require that no civil servant or local government servant should owe or be perceived to owe appointment or promotion to partisan activities. At this stage of our socio-political development, when the political discourse is all pervasive and rivalry can easily trigger to a whole range of reactions, including even violence, it would be most unhealthy to countenance civil and local government servants who publicly proclaim their partisan leanings in the public space. Whilst their membership of a party is their right, the open manifestation of such leanings cannot argue well for a neutral workplace and demonstrate assurance of transparency and anonymity and neutrality in decision-making or execution of functions. Otherwise, a public perception of political corruption in all its forms, including bias, nepotism, abuse of position, capacity, and lack of accountability will be engendered, thereby weakening the effectiveness of these government services. Visible partisanship and overt displays of lack of professional neutrality and objectivity would be a betrayal of the just expectation of the people of the Republic of Ghana. In these coming elections, the people of the Republic of Ghana should ensure that they vote for a government that will uphold the principles of neutrality, anonymity, and permanence in the civil service and the local government service. CLOSAC will resist with all our might the evasion of the civil service and the local government service by political apparatchiks and guru boys, and the Almighty God will help us. On this day, May Day, the Day of Workers, Solidarity, the statement by our mentor, Nathan Anankwa of Blessed Mary, is relevant as it was and then, that it is the perfection of the civil servant that will move this country forward and not the politician. Happy birthday to all members and workers in Ghana and the world at large. Joe Boy! Joe!
We also say on labor-related issues because organized labor has reached some level of consensus with government on their demand for immediate payment of all their Tier 2 pension deductions. This agreement was reached at a meeting between organized labor, the Employment and Labor Relations Ministry, the Ministry of Finance and Senate. That's yesterday, Tuesday. The unions in the last few days been agitating over government's inability to remit all their Tier 2 pension deduction to the fund manager since July 2023. A meeting was held at the Employment Ministry of the ministry to resolve this matter. We have more for you after this short break. Welcome back to the show. This is The Pulse. We're celebrating workers around the world, and this afternoon we also have somebody in our studio to talk about very important issues regarding labor. And of course, Isaac Moshin is Assistant Chief Labor Officer with the Labor Office, right? The Labor Department. And we want to talk about the job market and how laws concerning labor are enforced as we celebrate this Labor Day in a broader perspective. So first perhaps, as we talk about the laws, I can ask you about, the concerns of CLOSAC. They say that some of their members are being replaced with political appointees. In terms of the law and labor practice, Is it normal, Samushin?
Thank you very much. It will be difficult for me to speak to that matter because it has not actually come as a complaint to us as a department. So it will be difficult for me to make a pronouncement as to whether it is against the law or not. But if it is formally reported to us, then we have steps that we take to verify the information and then see how we can resolve it. But it has not come to us officially.
All right. All right. So the Labor Department, I mean, you've existed for years. What exactly do you do?
Thank you for the opportunity. Labor Department does a lot of things, generally concerning labor administration. And so if you look at our functions carefully, talking about industrial relations, talking about labor inspections, talking about combating child labor, talking about employment service, that's National Employment Service, all these things spells out the role that we play in terms of the law trying to harmonize the workplace. Let me put it that way. So generally, these are the things we do. We can take each of them and then go into them.
Of course, I want us to break it down one after the other.
Yes. So broadly, this is what we do as a department.
And I know that in some time, but people will actually apply for job through the Labor Department, isn't it?
Yes. So under the function National Employment Service, that is where it falls within. We have the public employment centers. And coming into force the Labor Act 2003, it has given the private sector the opportunity to participate in the employment ecosystem. So it has given them a room to register with us, then we monitor their activities. Yes, but the government machinery is through the public employment centers.
Right.
Where we do all these activities in relation to registration, in relation to job matching, career guidance, career and vocational guidance. We do all that at the public employment centers. And so generally that is what we do. And so candidates or job seekers may come into our offices at the centers, then whatever they want us to help them with, we do. If you are looking for a job, there's a process we take you through registration, because we have to get some information from you, the sector you want to work with, and then we'll match that with your skills that you have. And the vacancies that we receive, we do what we call job matching. And we do the job matching per what the employer requires or demand. So the process of getting the right candidates for the employer is the job matching function that we do. And so we collect this information from both the employer and then the job seeker to be able to do the matching.
And how intense is this area, which for a lot of people is crucial? Because unemployment is huge in this country. People are looking for jobs every day. How regular do you get some of these requests?
Well, it doesn't come regularly, but we do job canvassing. For example, from the officers go out to do job canvassing through inspections, establishment inspections, and then we have another function just solely for job canvassing. We reach out to employers and then ask them whether they have vacancies that they haven't filled. And if they have not filled them, what are the vacancies? What is required to fill all these things? So we take it back to the office. And if they want to fill, we look into our database and then look at the appropriate candidates and then submit them for the employer to do further interviews and then take those that he or she wants to.
So in terms of the analysis and then the applications you get, and then what is available and how you are able to sometimes do your own things to get the people the job that they need. I mean, have you come across challenges that you think that this perhaps are the obstacles why people are not getting jobs, even though they may have completed tertiary institution, they may have degree, masters, but yet still people are just not employed?
Yes, we do what we call a skill gap analysis. And sometimes the issue has to do with the skill set that the person is having. I will cite an example. We recently got vacancies coming from Tema Center, Tema office. And we could not get them in Tema. Probably people don't even know that this exists. And we circulated it among the centers across the country, and we still did not get the required candidates to fill. And this was very technical. They were looking for individuals with background in late-turner machine operating. And there are various categories that they wanted, a number, but we could not fill those vacancies. So sometimes we get the vacancies, but we don't have the candidates to actually do any matching. Recently, there was another publication in terms of somebody who has background in this kind of geology or something. We couldn't get, and the vacancy is still pending. So sometimes these are some of the challenges that we come across. But if you come to work that don't require much skill, those ones, they easily get jobs like the factory hands and those that go into individuals as employers' places to work, like domestic workers and the rest. For those ones, you don't require much skill to be able to undertake those jobs. So we fix them all the time.
But from your perspective, will you say that perhaps we are not doing targeted training?
Okay, for some time now, we are now doing what we call retooling for the department to be able to carry out a lot of these functions effectively. And so we do training, but it's very limited, not on a wide scale. Normally, those that visit the center, we are able to take them through some training. And not only that, we also refer some to a vocational skill training or soft skills training. We have people that we work with, and so once we get such candidates, and there's a need for them to acquire some skill sets, we refer them to those institutions to go and acquire it, and then they can be employable.
Right. Now, let's look at protection for workers from the Labor Department point of view. What the law and how you protect those who are employed. Walk us through the process.
Okay, we have two ways of doing it, generally. Through the industrial relations process, if you have any industrial issue that is bothering two parties relating to talking about unions and then the workplace and all that kind of engagement, it is settled sometimes in our offices. Some are sent to Labor Commission, but I'll concentrate on our side.
Right.
And so through industrial relations issues, we are able to resolve a lot of cases. And through labor complaint cases that is handled at the metro offices, what happens is that if we get a complaint in relation to whatever work that you are doing, and probably, for example, the employer, you agreed on something and he or she did not follow, you bring it to our attention, we take steps to resolve it at the enterprise level. And so these are some of the things we do. And again, we conduct establishment inspection. And this gives us an opportunity to know everything about the establishment. We talk to the workers, we talk to the employer, and we get documentation on all the workers. We demand for their payroll, we demand for anything that has to do with the workers, terms and conditions of their work. And these are the areas that you can use to protect the workers. So anything that you find that is not in line with what the law provides, then we make sure that we bring the employer back onto the right path. Then things are resolved, and then there's harmony at the work.
Are you able to tell us some of the complaints that come to you? The most common ones.
Quite interesting.
That you see almost every day.
Just 2 days ago, or yesterday, yes, I handled one personally. The employer terminated her appointment without any notice. She was at work, and then the employer called that don't come to work, I've terminated.
This is a private institution?
Yes, they paid her some amount. But you see, the law is very clear on some of these things. You cannot just terminate. There's a cost if you do that anyway. And on both sides, the employee is also supposed to notify the employer and all this. And so they are all stated in the law. But the application is where people fault. And so when she made a complaint, okay, I took it up, I invited the employer. The employer came, and then we resolved the matter. So I'm even yet to write for them to, whatever cost is there, then they'll pay. But they generally cut across various issues relating to work. non-payment of SNIT contribution, for example, is one.
Yes.
Leave entitlement is also one. You know, sometimes, I don't know whether they are not aware. It's only sometimes when they have an issue and the employer terminates the appointment that
before they start bringing all of these things
out. When they come to make a complaint to us, they say, "Oh, I didn't enjoy my leave for all this period that I was with the employer and all this." But you see, some of the things are supposed to be enforced by the employer. Annual leave you have to give to the person. You have to program when is the person taking the annual leave. Then you know that when that period comes, you allow the person to go for the leave. Sometimes they're going to negotiate on how they will implement the leave, but that one is still within the law. So when they don't enjoy all these things and they end up, being sacked from the work or something like that, then they now come and make a complaint and include all these things. Basically, it has to do with the conditions of service. And after 6 months, if you engage somebody after 6 months, you have to formalize it by giving the person a signed terms and conditions.
Or you allow the person to go.
Yes. So if after probation period, for example, and you are not satisfied with the person, you can let the person go. But if you want to maintain the person, even if a day, the person can to work a day, that adds up to 6 months plus, automatically the law
becomes a permanent
employee.
employee.
The law sees the person as a permanent staff and will enjoy whatever permanent staff also enjoy.
So these challenges relating to non-payment of SNIT sometimes they don't take their leave, sometimes the employer does not respect the terms of the contract. My assumption is that usually these are all in the private sector, isn't it?
Yes. In fact, it's
99% in the private sector.
In the private sector, I can see.
So you say that there is workers or a lot of people are going through a lot of difficulties in their workplaces, especially in the private sector. Yes. You will say that?
Yes, I can say that for sure. Because you see, most of the cases that we receive, scarcely that you receive a case from the public sector. Scarcely. They are just one and those ones is not even relating to the working environment per se, but has to do with workmen's compensation. When you are injured, whilst carrying out your activity, that one, sometimes we have challenges. Getting money from the state is very difficult. And so we do all these processes, trying to determine and then facilitate the payment of workmen's compensation. All these things are part of the working environment, try to enforce. There are instances that employers, when somebody is injured at the workplace, the law says they should give us notice within 1 week. They
should give the Labor Department notice
within 1 week of the injury.
Of the state of the injury.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So you have to write to us formally that so date and time, this worker was involved in an accident.
And you get such notice from them?
Yes, we get. We get a lot. The education is now going down.
And then when you get such notice, what do you do?
So we put it in our records, showing that there was an accident. So normally what happens is that when it happens like that, the worker will have to be taken care of. One, they still have to continue paying you, for the time that you are still going under medical treatment. Your salary should be full. So we have instances where some employers, when you are undergoing medical treatment, they don't want to pay your salary.
The reason I would just allow you to establish the point, and I can follow up with your questions, is that we have received countless number of complaints and petitions from people who was working, got injured in the process, and sometimes the employer just abandoned them. I mean, we've reported of some Ghanaians who were working with some foreign firms. One had one hand chopped off whilst working on a machine. Even it took so long before this foreign employer would take the injured Ghanaian to the hospital. And that was it. They didn't follow up. He's made representation to the company for some kind of assistance to enable him take care of his health and possible compensation because of the state he is in now. He will not be able to function 100%. And as we speak, he's yet to get it. It took the intervention of a lawyer to take the matter to court. And the court is yet to come to a determination on this matter.
I think even sometimes when such cases go to court without necessarily passing through our office, the court may sometimes refer the case because there's a whole process that you have to go through.
Before.
If it comes to our notice, we take steps to let take some documentation. The medical doctor will have to do assessment on the impact of the injury on the worker and to determine certain things. So we use that kind of assessment in determining the workman's claim, if there's any. There are some of the injuries that are temporal, in nature and may not have any impact on the person.
But there are some that are permanent,
yes.
that may have named the person for life.
The component of it also comes in. So we take all this information. There's a form actually that when it comes to our notice, we allow them to fill. It may be the first medical report, which we don't use because the medical officer will have to do the assessment after the injury is healed or when the person is fit to go back to work. Then they know the impact. And that is the point we then begin to determine whether there will be any lump sum compensation claim that will go to the injured worker.
So when you do the investigation, after your investigation, then you establish that the employer must pay this compensation.
Yes.
And then how do you enforce it?
In fact, it's within 3 months. The law says once we issue the notice to the employer, then within 3 months, the employer will have to take steps to make the payment. And you see, because of our working environment, certain things are there, you find it very difficult. But through industrial relations, we try to, some companies, they do it within the time frame. Others will come back and then inform you that they have challenges, so they'll need small time in addition to be able to
comply.
Yes, where we need to send a reminder after 3 months, we do. But we have some other employers who are very recalcitrant and very difficult to deal with.
That they will not even comply with the directive.
So once we determine the compensation and there's an award given, then the injured worker, with that order that we give, the claim that we write, then they can take it up and facilitate it in court after 3 months.
And that's also another cost to the injured worker.
Yes.
The person who's already facing financial challenges because of his inability to perhaps work effectively now has the tax also going to court to enforce the ruling or the decision of the Labor Department.
Yes, it's true. You see, our process is very long. And so sometimes once we notice that this employer is trying to be difficult.
You don't have power to enforce your own rulings?
We have to use the Attorney General route. For the Metro office, you would have to send the information to the Chief Law Officer, who would then also pass it through the Ministry to Attorney General for them to do such things. So because of the route, we always advise that they can get private, legal practitioners to take the case.
I was thinking that perhaps you may have lawyers at the Attorney General on standby who will take up your cases in the event that an employer refuses to comply with your ruling, so that it becomes seamless for the victim to go through the legal process without necessarily having to, stress him or herself financially.
A lot of things are changing now. We are looking at how we can enhance our services. And so what you are saying is not out of place. It's something that we will take on board and then see how we can facilitate that. Because I think the Labour Act is being reviewed and a lot of things are being added on. And these are some of the areas that we think we can leverage on to improve on our services. But in a large extent, we are able to handle almost all the cases.
And compliance is high?
High. I mean, there's a case that has been registered in our office right now. The guy got injured over 10 years ago. Just for him, 1.5 years or 2 to go on pension, I think he was terminated and he felt peeved. He came that he got injured and he was not taken care of. And he has all the records, police report and all that. So we are now facilitating the process for him to be compensated. So no matter how long it's in the pipeline, we can still work on it. And because the employer also fails to report as prescribed by PNDC law 187.
That in itself constitutes some infringement.
Yes, and because of time value of money, if it has been computed at the time, the value of the money would have been, okay. But because of time lapse, it is not. So we will use, there are sanctions if you don't report, but we don't always want to be, litigating matters of such. So we can use current ceiling to do the computation for the person so that the person don't lose in terms of the value of the money that.
But from all the analysis you've done, the cases that you've perused and all, will you say that the Ghanaian worker is very much aware of the laws that protect them, or is it because in their desperation for work, they don't even read the do's and don'ts unless they are involved in an incident before they try to look for
it's
a
It's
remedy?
a mixture of issues. For example, you see, we need to do a lot of publicity and sensitization of our services, and that is the reason why we are even here.
Exactly.
To leverage on the May Day to talk about some of these issues. Those informal, businesses or establishments, they follow all these things. But if they are in semi-formal businesses, some one man doing something, those are, the places where you have a lot of these challenges. Before the issue will come even to your notice, a year, 2 has even passed. So normally, these are some of the challenges. But once it comes to our notice, we quickly take it up and then try to resolve it. And then if there's any determination in terms of the lump sum, we compute and then they pay.
I mean, strike is a constant feature in labor issues. I don't know whether sometimes you get involved in resolving strike actions too, because I know that ultimately sometimes if both parties are unable to come to a resolution, the Labor Commission now step in, and then it may even go to court. At your level, beyond dealing with their individual cases, sometimes you also get involved in addressing industrial actions.
Yes, we do a lot. You see, but we don't communicate all these things. What we do is we gather intelligence on labor, issues, and we every month across the country, whatever is like any interest relating to labor, whether you are picking signals that people want to strike, people are not happy with certain things that you want to bring to the notice of, the ministry, we pick it up and then we quickly, that one don't, wait. Even if it's one, paragraph, you have to quickly send that information. Then that one is used to mitigate whatever is, is supposed to come up. And, in some of the regions, I have to say it here that labor is supposed to be part of the security councils, the regional security council, and then the districts and the security council, because labor issues can be very volatile.
Right.
But because we do all these things within at the background, a lot of things don't come out. Yes, I have even prevented a case of strike like that before, somewhere in Sawan when I was working there. So once we get the information, quickly we move in to resolve whatever issues, understanding will come, and then there'll be peace and harmony.
So you gather intelligence, but you are not part of the security of the district and regional security council.
That is why I'm using this medium to echo it. In some other districts and municipal, labor is part, but some places I'm not sure why we are not really. But we are taking it up. We are through the Chile officer. We want to echo this through the regional, so that it will be, across board in terms of our.
Okay. So apart from addressing the concerns of workers and few other things that you do, what are some of the other functions that perhaps for those who are watching and may not be so conversant with the Labor Department, what are you telling them as we bring the conversation?
So if you are somebody who is looking for work, for example, you may want to take opportunity of the free service that is offered at the public employment centers across the country. We have, in fact, you'll find one in all regions. And sometimes, Greater Accra, we have two, one in Tema, one in Accra. And they are building new one too at somewhere in Sawam area. And new ones are also being built across the country.
So you have district offices as well?
Yes, we have district offices that mainly handle these labor complaint cases and then the workmen compensation issues. And then other issues relating to inspection. So sometimes when we even get a complaint, we move in through inspection to be able to resolve some of the issues. And so I'm not sure we have ever visited multimedia.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
the pipeline.
This perhaps is the new government that the Labour Commission is put on. The Labour Department is putting on. Be more open to the public. Let the public understand what you do. That your doors are open, and that anything relating to labor issues, private, public, you stand in readiness to help resolve
Yes,
these
so
matters.
as part of the strategies, we are looking at leveraging on technology to be able to reach out to more audience, because it's not everybody that can visit your office. And so the platform is being created, that's the Ghana Labour Market Information System, that will provide an opportunity for candidates, job seekers, academia, employers to interact. It's a platform that will be able to gather enough labor market information and to even know the skill set of individuals who are even applying for jobs and all this. And so very soon, I don't want to take the wind out of the ministry. They are likely to launch and then open some of the new centers that they've built. They're very beautiful and they are retooling us. And part of this, we're also working with our stakeholders, with German, EU, with GIZ Ghana Center. We're working in collaboration with them. They are sponsoring this program for us to be able to tell the world what we do so that people can appreciate our services, and then we'll be able to resolve outstanding issues that people are having in terms of labor. But the focus is on employment service because of the unemployment situation we find ourselves in this country.
Right. Is there a hotline that people can easily reach out to you?
There is a hotline I will share with you. It's a toll-free line. If you Google it, you'll get it. It's on the ministry website. Ministry
of Employment website.
Yes. And then once you call it toll-free, you can get it. But there's another line that we use at the Metro office. It's 027-2000-976, and then the last 267.
Please repeat the number.
027-2000-976 and 027-2000-967.
All right. Today is Labor Day. Final words to our viewers.
My final word is that if you are engaged in any activity that you are earning something from in the form of employment, we are not talking about work. You can work without necessarily being in employment. And so if you have any issue relating to work having with your employer, please come to the labor office. We are, our doors are open. Then we'll see how we can help you, to resolve some of those issues. Don't sit with it and then say you don't have anywhere to go.
All right, thank you very much. Isaac Mushin is the assistant. Isaac Mushin, assistant chief labor officer with the Labor Department, and I've learned so many things from him today. The Labor Department is doing a lot of work for those who've been victims of unfair labor treatments in their work, and he's spoken about steps they've taken to help people get compensation, to help people even get jobs. Or the ultimate goal is to ensure that if you are an employer or if you are a worker, your rights will always be protected. And it ties in, more importantly, as we celebrate Workers' Day around the world. And as we celebrate this day, organized labor, they've reached some level of consensus with government on their demand for an immediate payment of all Tier 2 pension deductions. This agreement was reached at a meeting between organized labor, the Employment Labor Relations Ministry, the Ministry of Finance, and Senate yesterday, Tuesday. The unions have in the past few days been agitating over government's inability to remit all their Tier 2 pension deduction to the fund manager since July of last year. A meeting was held at the Employment Ministry to resolve the matter after the unions threatened to embark on an industrial action if government fails to pay the deduction by May 2nd. That's tomorrow. Listen to NAGRA President Angel Kabonu on what has been agreed on after that meeting.
We'll see that there's been some development. The development is that, one, we will not allow our Tier 2 pensions to be in arrears because it affects the retirement of our members. So there was a commitment to pay. The details are being worked out, but there's a commitment to pay, and we want a written document on that. And also, there is also a program of paying up the arrears of the dues, and also the lump sum that SNIT is supposed to pay beneficiaries have also been decided on, and that payment ought to be done. So we can say that there is progress
being made on the issues that led to the threat to embark on industrial actions. Whatever proposal they have, they are supposed to present it to Labour, for Labour to sit with its technical committee and look through it before we sign that document, which I think by the close of Thursday, those documents are supposed to come to us.
And then another matter of interest is the fear of SNIT's inability to fully pay pensioners their full contribution by 2036. NJ Carbonu says, despite some assurance from SNIT, they have rejected a call for an increase in the SNIT contribution.
The defense SNIT is coming out is the fact that, the government of Ghana will not allow a situation where we cannot pay beneficiaries. But the actual role of SNIT is to take those monies and invest prudently so that the whole scheme can be sustained. That is where the controversy is. The controversy, the research is realized that government is not been fulfilling its obligation. And because of that, there is a shortage of funds for SNIT to be able to keep up with its obligation. That is the outcome of the research that was done. And then two, the question we should ask is that over the years, have SNIT been investing prudently? And prudent investment is investment that brings you maximum returns. Then on the issue of SNIT request that workers have to pay up more, some of us have a difficulty in accepting that concept as at now. Because the little that has been given to you, how did you manage it? Are you getting it? And we cannot pay more with the kind of governance structure that SNIT is having right now. There is too much government control with regards to the governance structure of SNIT.
NJ Carbon also put forth some key issues they look forward to the president, and president has already spoken on the May Day celebration, but they had expectations.
The president to indicate to workers its commitment to our wherewithal as contributors to this economy. I expect the government to identify and address the economic situation, because these are things that affect workers. I expect the government to announce the reduction of its hold on institutions such as SNIT. And I also expect government to announce a dramatic cutting down of expenditure on the public purse. These are things I expect the president to talk about.
This is a pause here on Joy News. Now, let's move away from labor issues and let's talk about security. Because the Ghana Police Service says it has arrested a suspect in connection with the shooting and the subsequent death of a military officer believed to be in his late 30s at Millennium City in the Gomwa East District of the Central Region. The victim was allegedly shot dead while two other officers managed to escape further attacks after a sub-chief fired live bullets at them in front of the Millennium City District Police Command over a land dispute. So who is this suspect who has been arrested by the police? Let's check out the details in the statement shared by the police a while ago. And according to them, the police, they've arrested a man in connection with the shooting incident which occurred at the Millennium City Kaswa in the Central Region, leading to the death of a soldier. According to the police, their investigation has established that the suspect, Ben Lord Abebio, allegedly shot the soldier at Millennium City Kaswa on Tuesday, 30th April 2024 at around 4:20 p.m. The victim sustained gunshot wounds and was rushed to the Mother and Child Hospital at Kaswa for medical attention. However, he was later pronounced dead by the medical authorities. Suspect Ben Lord Abebio is currently in custody, assisting police investigation. The leadership of the police service is in touch with the leadership of the Ghana Armed Forces as investigation into the incident continues. And this is signed by Grace Ansah Akofi, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Director in charge of Public Relations. And that is the latest on this, matter. that came from the central region, Gomoa East to be more precise. And we'll bring you more in subsequent bulletins. But for now, the Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture, Mavis Hawkins, says government needs at least $10 million to operationalize the Elmina fish processing plant. She's been providing answers at the Committee on Government Assurances on the day the Minister of Energy was unable to appear before the committee. That angered some committee members who had demanded that the committee be chaired by an NDC MP to command the respect of ministers. Parliamentary correspondent Akufo-Addo has more in this report.
The Government Assurance Committee has commenced sittings to verify the status of work on promises that were made on the floor of Parliament by various ministers. Today, the Energy Minister, Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh, was expected to kickstart the committee hearings. He was not available. We understand he is out of the country, prompting concerns by some MPs that this is disrespectful to the committee, and they believe that if you allow a minority MP to chair the committee, it will elicit more respect from ministers.
It's the committee, probably leadership, that have to step up their game, because ideally, the committee should be chaired by a member in opposition, not a member in government. You know how difficult it is for us to do politics in Ghana. A member in government chairing the committee feels that, oh, that's my party member. The minister, I belong to the same party with the minister. And so if I become so hard on the minister, it will look like I'm pulling my own minister down.
Well, the Minister for Fisheries, Hawa Kumsin, did take her turn before the committee and has been providing some updates on what exactly government has been doing since her assurances were made on the floor, particularly regarding premix fuel substations and how much will be needed to complete the Elmina fishing processing plant.
The construction of the premix fuel automated dispensing project is expected to cure the premix fuel diversion. Currently, 50 of the projects have been completed. The rest are at various levels of completion. Thank you. We don't need anything less than $10 million to do these projects. Yes. And that is why we were still falling on the Indian Exim Bank to continue with the facility so that they will know the total cost that can make this plant functional.
Well, chairman of the committee says they will continue to do their job. They will actually go ahead and verify some of these issues that have been put to them in this committee. They will go across the country on their verification visits to ensure that the claims that were made by these ministers in the committee hearings are actually truthful.
Today we had the privilege, after trying successive times, to meet the minister. Today she availed herself and she even came in time. And today, from a questioning line and lining up vis-a-vis with the assurances she gave in at the floor of Parliament, I think we have given her 80% of what she's been able to do. And at the end of the day, not all that she's been able to cover, but obviously there's a room for improvement, and definitely a committee is going to set up a tour to make sure we verify all these projects. It's like a tracker to be able to verify and ascertain what is really said to match against what is being done on the ground. And we're going to use that. And that, not only that, but we're going to engage other ministers on Friday. We are looking at Napo, who's going to come on Friday, the energy minister, and that's a bigger one. It comes with 100 questions. And we're just using our mandate as an act of Parliament. It's not a wish hand, as stated earlier.
President Akufo-Addo is urging naval chiefs and other top maritime security experts to work together and share intelligence that will help clamp down on terrorism, piracy, kidnapping, and other threats. Speaking at the African Maritime Forces Summit and Naval Infantry Leaders Symposium at the Kempinski Hotel here in Accra, it said through collaboration, threats such as piracy and armed robbery at sea have sufficiently been suppressed. There's more in this report.
Governmental and military leaders from more than 40 countries on 4 continents kicked off the second annual African Maritime Forces Summit and 3rd Naval Infantry Leaders Symposium Africa here in Accra. The summit combined this year, for the first time, provides a unique venue for participants to address shared concerns and expand maritime cooperation and coordination. The forum will strengthen strategic-level relationships to help facilitate better regional cooperation when dealing with maritime threats. Speaking at the event, U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Virginia Palmer, said, considering what is happening in West Africa regarding military overthrows, Ghana's military must be commended for respecting the Constitution. She said the maritime domain is big and no country can single-handedly deal with the crimes there.
Important these days. So I salute you. We all respect it very deeply. And it is a great contributor to Ghana's success and prosperity. This gathering is a testament not only to our shared commitment to maritime security, but also to enduring partnership between our nations and the continent of Africa. Here in West Africa, peace building and security are never far from our minds. Ghana has been fortunate in avoiding violent extremist attacks. As you know, some of Ghana's neighbors have not been so lucky. As His Excellency the President noted at the very beginning of his State of the Union address earlier this year, West Africa is under threat of terrorism and violent extremism. Countries in this region can no longer take our territorial integrity for granted. These are indeed times in which the work and collaboration of everyone in this room is critical.
Comptroller General of the Ghana Immigration Service, Kwame Isuatichi, said his outfit has strengthened its second layer of border management through an enhanced inland checks to deal with the threats of terrorism. He urged commuters to cooperate with the GIS in that regard.
And also one of the strategies we've adopted, which is very critical, is what we call the second layer in border management. So we have what we call the inland checkpoints. So those who have been traveling from the borders, coming from the north, you will find that you have immigration officers sometimes with the police doing all these checks. And we need to advise Ghanaians and plead with them to exercise a bit of patience when our officers stop these vehicles to do search, ask them questions. It's for their own safety and the safety of this country. So it's very critical that this inland checkpoint is also playing a part in our border security. And we're asking Ghanaians, like I'm saying again, to exercise a bit of conscience, not complain that why have you stopped this vehicle, why are you searching us? It shouldn't take more than 10, 15 minutes. And it's for your own safety, because you don't know that there is a terrorist on the vehicle, because we have a lot of unapproved roads and they may have passed somewhere that we will not have seen them. So we are also appealing to Ghanaians to also assist the Ghana Immigration Service and other security agencies in fighting this terrorism.
In his speech, President Akufo-Addo urged the participants to work together and share intelligence that will help clamp down on maritime threats.
Today, piracy and armed robbery at sea, which are the most visible symptoms of insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea, have, as a result of the coordination of efforts of the Nigerian, Ghanaian, and other navies, been appreciably suppressed, but still remain important threats to national and regional maritime activities. Aside these major threats, there are increasing numbers of other incidents occurring in the territorial and international waters across the entire African continent. Illegal oil bunkering, kidnapping at sea for ransom, illegal fishing, terrorism, and drug trafficking are common threats across our territorial waters. These transnational crimes do not only threaten national and regional peace and security, but they also come at a great cost to the economies of both coastal and non-coastal states. In the face of these challenges, it is imperative that we foster greater cooperation and collaboration amongst African maritime forces. By working together, sharing intelligence, and coordinating our efforts, we can address effectively maritime security threats and safeguard our maritime domain.
Now, before COVID-19 pandemic, tuberculosis was one of the deadliest infectious diseases. It's estimated that tuberculosis has caused more deaths throughout human history than any other infectious agent. Despite advances in treatment and prevention, it remains a significant global health concern, particularly in regions with limited access to healthcare and resources. The National TB Program says more children are at risk now, and parents must be vigilant to help in early detection of the infection. There's more in this report.
Prisoners, children, rural poor, persons living with HIV, minors, and smokers are the key vulnerable population who easily contract tuberculosis due to factors like the quality of air in the environment where they find themselves. This is according to the findings of a research into tuberculosis by the National Tuberculosis Program. Senior lecturer and consultant at the School of Public Health, KNUST, Dr. Muhammad Aliyu, says tuberculosis is still a killer disease.
Generally, we know that TB is a public health problem and remains a significant disease in a country. So we need certain interventions. We need to strengthen or improve our intervention to meet the needs of the TB population. A normal person being infected and not having a strong immune system would end up getting the disease. So there's the need for us to raise awareness, not only in the key vulnerable population, but also the general population need to understand why there's a need for us to raise awareness.
According to Dr. Aliyu, the research was bedeviled by major challenges, thereby limiting the extent the study could explore.
There's the legal implications and also the financial component. The legal implication is that, look, you can't expose, it's ethically not right in research for you to expose the locations of individuals who, from the onset, the activities are deemed illegal. So you can't expose them. Secondly, we don't have enough funds to conduct this assessment. It's very important. NTP would better respond to TB. They can control TB better if we actually know exactly where these individuals who are at risk of vulnerable for getting TB. We need to understand their locations, but however, we don't really have enough funds.
Project lead Emanuela Bentum called on all stakeholders to join the fight against TB as it is claiming lives.
TB is very risky, and it was the #1 deadliest disease before COVID, but it's still hanging around. COVID has been dealt with, but what are we doing about TB? TB still hangs around us. That is why we make sure to map TB key and vulnerable populations in Ghana in order to reduce TB inequities. So we are not only bringing them on board, engaging and sensitizing key and vulnerable populations. We are also taking services to them, especially those who are not having access to TB services and care. So we are on the agenda, leaving no one behind, and we are carrying everyone along. In as much as we are sensitizing these key populations, we are making sure to engage lawmakers and policymakers that will make policy decisions and to suit TB key populations in order to meet their needs. So let's all call on our lawmakers and policymakers to do this for us in order to make sure our accountability is promoted.
The National TB Program has assured Ghanaians that it is working tirelessly to curb the rising cases of tuberculosis and urging affected persons to adhere to their prescriptions.
Well, a leading public health physician in charge of Parkinson's disease at Richard Novelty Catholic Hospital, Dr. Momodu Cham, has highlighted the shifting demographics of this debilitating condition traditionally associated with early Parkinson's disease, and is increasingly affecting younger individuals, even those below the age of 40. According to Dr. Cham's remarks at the recent Parkinson's support group meeting held at the Richard Novelty Catholic Hospital in Sugagope, the emergence of Parkinson's disease among the younger age group signifies a significant departure from conventional understanding, which underscores the present need for heightened awareness and support system tailored to address the unique challenges faced by these patients.
The emergence of Parkinson's disease among younger age groups signifies a significant departure from conventional understanding and underscores the pressing need for heightened awareness and support systems tailored to address the unique challenges faced by these patients. Speaking about the evolving landscape of Parkinson's disease, Dr. Cham emphasized the importance of collective efforts in providing comprehensive care and support to patients, regardless of
certain
age.
Challenges we are dealing with as far as care for Parkinson's disease is concerned. There are 4 gaps that we are trying to close. The first one is the awareness gap. People being aware that it is a disease is a problem, because some people attribute it to old age, others attribute it to spiritual problems and a lot of other things. So that is the first challenge we face, raising awareness that it is a disease. Secondly, diagnosing Parkinson's disease is difficult, even for healthcare workers. Even for some doctors, it's difficult to diagnose Parkinson's disease because it's not something they see often. Because those who have it sometimes are in their communities, they don't have money to come to the hospital. And even some of them, when they come and you tell them how much the drugs cost, they just go back home because they don't have the money. That brings me to the next challenge, treating Parkinson's disease. The medicines are expensive. The medicine used to treat Parkinson's disease is called levodopa. It's either Sinemet or Madopa. They are both quite expensive. You can spend as much as 1,000 Ghana cedis per person per month to treat Parkinson's disease. This is too much for people in my setting, in the rural Ghana. They're having trouble affording the medication. The last challenge is about information about Parkinson's disease. How common is it in Ghana? How common is it in Africa? What causes it? What are the genetic factors, scientific factors? We are lacking quite a bit of knowledge about Parkinson's disease, because we realize that what causes it in Black Africans is different from what causes it in whites, in Caucasians, is different from what causes it in Arabs and other races. Therefore, we cannot borrow research or data. We have to do our own and find out what is causing it. So these are the 4 gaps we are trying to close with the TRAPCAF project. TRAPCAF stands for Transforming Parkinson's Care in Africa. There are 7 African countries that are part of this. It is funded by the UK's National Institute of Health and Care Research under the umbrella of
Well, that's our show for today. For more stories, log on to our website, myjoyonline.com. My name is Elton Brobe, and I'm leaving you in the hands of this poignant testament to resilience. 2 survivors of child trafficking have defied the odds, braving the storm of their past to pursue higher education against a backdrop of adversity. These individuals have emerged as beacons of hope. Their journeys marked by courage and determination. And at the forefront of this narrative stands the village of life. And I have more for you on that pretty shortly. But for now, have a good evening and have a great evening.
The forefront of this narrative stands the village of life in Ketakrachi in the Ruti region, which is a beacon of hope for survivors of trafficking. The director of Village of Life, George Achibra, reflecting on their arduous journey. He emphasized the transformative power of education in breaking the chains of exploitation.
So we start to do some sensitization and educate them. Thank God, the government of Ghana has not slept on these issues. Laws have been enacted, apart from the Children's Act, apart from even the treaty that we signed with the United Nations concerning the CRC, as the Convention of the Rights of the Child, boxing all these kind of particulars. Then we need that we have good material that we can talk. So I think that is the first thing I think the government of Ghana, and looking at our constitution, it also forms of even misuse and manhandling of children. So it has even softened us and given us the real powers for us to speak to fishermen and perpetrators who are really manhandling our children. And so that is how PACODEP started. And there was nowhere that we can use that. We say Partners in Community Development Program. So quickly, PACODEP came to be. And as a sole founder and a leading, I need people who can reason with me and who can join me to fight these madness against children. So this is briefly about how it came to be. And as a young teacher in the classroom, I still double up my time. Any other extra time, I visit the islands to speak to people, to change the mindset so that we can own these our children. We may be living not quite soon, but we need people who will replace us. The various professions that we have, call it anything, the journalist, the lawyer, the teacher, the president, what have you. We need to get people who will replace us for tomorrow so that our Ghana will not even completely equal to the US or any of the Western world, but it's getting closer for a beautiful country like this.
The stories shared by these survivors, now full-grown men, offer a glimpse into the harrowing realities they endured and the triumphs they have achieved. Despite facing unimaginable hardships in their formative years, they refuse to be defined by their past, instead choosing to chart a new course toward academic excellence and personal growth.
How old were you when you were brought here? And what were you doing? Where were you rescued from?
At first, I was with my mother at Adam. So that was the story they told me because I was too young. They said I was with my mother at Adam. So she was sick. So one of my aunties took me to Karachi, that is just a lakeside. So according to her, that she asked me as I want to go to school. So she said then I should follow her, I will come and school here. So we were there first year, second year I was not going to school. I was rather going to the lake. So by God willing, Mr. Chibla, the director, came and saw me on the lake. I was working for the man. So he picked me to the home here. Actually, I cannot say the actual year I cannot say, but 4 or 5 years, I guess. 4 or 5 years. So I came to the shelter here, they took care of me, feeding, everything, schooling. So I entered the first class, the nursing. I entered, I passed here, I got to JHS3, I wrote my BC and I passed. And they continue to take care of me. They send me to SHS, that is Ashkoko Senior High School. So we just completed last year.
And you have beautiful results.
When I was a kid, I was with my parents and my uncle came for me to come and stay with him in one of the islands around Kitekachi. So I was with him, helping him to do his fishing job, and he wasn't taking me to school, and it was very bad. Sometimes see your colleagues in uniforms and then you weren't in uniform, very hurting and pathetic. So I was with him working, and PACODEP came to my aid and I was rescued. I was 2011 to there. So I came to Village of Life and I started my primary 2, and I try my best. I'm trying to catch up things because first time in class 2 and it was something new to me. So I was trying my best and I passed through. So I schooled at Hope College, Gomapete. I'm very glad I've completed successfully from that school, and I am out with a good result now. Now I'm preparing to go to any tertiary institution now.
What message do you have for government on issues of child trafficking?
All right, so what I have for the government is that it's not that the people doing the wrong things don't know exactly what they are doing. They know what they are doing, but they don't know the negative effect it has on the children they are dealing with. So I would suggest if the government can make a provision like giving education to all people from islands and people who are taking children into this difficult situation, not taking them to school, denying them from health facilities and food and shelter. I think the government have to work on it by giving them education, and failure to obey the government rules, I think the individual should be punished for that.
The first appeal, I want them to support the man so that he can continue, because I know I'm not the only victim. Many people are up there that needs help, so I want them to help the man so that or they can join the work so that they help them.
I have also been interacting with 3 young siblings who were rescued from child trafficking and now in school. Expertise France, a French public agency with funding from the European Union, has played a pivotal role in supporting survivors of trafficking on their path to recovery. Through its comprehensive programs and holistic approach, Expertise France has empowered survivors with the tools they need to reclaim their lives and pursue their dreams. Speaking on the agency's efforts, the project manager of Expertise France Ghana, Serge Akpalu, underscored the importance of a multifaceted approach in combating trafficking and supporting survivors.
So Expertise France is implementing a project on behalf of the European Union, and our project is called Support the Fight Against Human Trafficking in the States of the Gulf of Guinea. So as part of this project, we are present in 6 countries in the sub-region, namely Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria. So in all these countries, the project is looking at 4 main components. The first one being the institutional consolidation, the second one being the law enforcement component, the third one being the protection of victims, and the fourth one having to do with regional cooperation. So this activity that we are having currently, this reportage, is part of the first component that is seeking to raise awareness on issues of human trafficking and child labor, and also sensitize people on why this is a menace and how we can go about tackling this issue once and for all.
Ivy Satoji, Joy News, Ketakrachi.
Pilolo or something.
Nico gives you